The town of Paw Tickle was covered in snow. The pups had already shoveled the walk, and they built a huge snowman and made snow pies, which I was told were just delicious. And they were in the middle of rinsing out the water hoses and hanging them up to dry. Tanker carefully poured hot water through the hose. Then Smudge and Farrah hung the hose up on a big hook, and Dilly used a big broom to sweep the water outside. They worked together beautifully as a team. Soon the hoses were cleaned out. Now there was no water left in them to freeze into ice and block the spray. I was watching the pups work and filling my windshield washer at the same time, so none of us noticed what the water was doing. When Dilly pushed the water out with the broom, it did trickle away. It seemed to disappear, but the cold weather caused an interesting thing to happen. The interesting thing was that outside in the front yard, the water was freezing and turning to ice. When the pups finished and all the hoses were hung up to dry, Farrah made peanut butter sandwiches. Dilly poured some juice. Smudge set the table, and Tanker put one cookie on each plate for dessert. Inside the fire station, the pups enjoyed their lunch. Outside the fire station, the yard froze into a great icy patch. After lunch, everybody had their own plans. Dilly and Smudge were going to have a game of who could roll a marble through the tunnel. Farrah was going to line up all the toy cars and see if they could reach from one end of the room to the other. Everyone asked Tanker to play with them, but Tanker had a plan of his own. He was going to go outside and check on his snowball collection. It was on the other side of the yard. Tanker raced out the door, thinking of his snowballs, and he didn't look down at all. He just headed across the yard. At first he was running, and then he was slipping, and then sliding, and then spinning. Nobody was more surprised than Tanker, and then he fell kerplop. He lay on the icy patch and wondered what had happened. He looked at the fire station. He realized that they had made this icy patch with water from the hose. He got up and he took a step, and with a flip and a flop, he found himself down on the ice again. Once more he stood up, and even before he could take his step, he slipped right back down again. It was at this point that Tanker realized that he couldn't get to his snowballs or the fire station. It was too slippery. He also realized something else. The fire station had its own emergency. I was busy checking my spare tire when I first heard Tanker's call. He sounded desperate. And as soon as I saw him, I knew why. I rang the alarm, and in a flurry, they were there. They came on the run. Tanker yelled for them to stop. And it was just in time. Dilly's toes were on the ice. Tanker explained that it was too slippery to get to one place or the other. The pups couldn't believe it. It was at this time that a good idea hit me. I extended one of my long ladders across the ice. I couldn't quite get it as far as Tanker, and this is when Smudge solved the problem. The pups crawled along the ladder that was lying flat on the ground, and when they got to the end of it, they slid out on their tummies, one over the other, onto the ice. Smudge held onto the ladder, Dilly held onto Smudge, and Farrah held onto Dilly. Farrah stretched her hand out as far as it would go. Tanker reached for it. Soon their fingertips touched, and then they were able to grab onto one another. Farrah pulled Tanker, Dilly pulled Farrah, and Smudge pulled Dilly. And soon they were all climbing back along the ladder to safety. When we looked, we realized the ice was hard to see, and it was easy to understand how Tanker hadn't noticed it. I did point out that the next time he races off to do something, he should look carefully before he runs. Things can be on the ground that might cause you to trip and fall. That sounded like good advice to Tanker. I made some hot chocolate to warm up the pups. They sat around the table trying to figure out how to get rid of the ice. Farah was quiet, which wasn't really like her, and then she jumped up. She told us that the best idea in the whole wide world had just hit her. She thought they should be looking at what to do with the ice instead of how to get rid of it. Again, the pups waited. Farah beamed it would be really fun to make it into a skating rink. All the pups leapt off their chairs. There was cheering and clinking of mugs as they celebrated her good idea. In a swish of my wipers, there were 4 hot chocolate mugs on the table and no pups in sight. They were busy putting on their skates, and within moments they were outside on the ice. This time they were all standing up and skating. Soon Bilko joined them, and so did Amadeinte and Morgenstein. Everybody laughed at the story of Tanker trying to check his snowballs, and they all agreed that next time it would be smarter to look before hurrying off into the day. And that would be good for you to remember, too. When you are excited about something and want to run, stop and look around first. Make sure it's safe to go ahead, and then have fun. It's important for you to keep safe, because you are very special to me.